Officer, I'm just reading in the park. What seems to be the problem?
We got a call about someone matching your description selling drugs in this area. Stand up.
Drugs? Sir, I'm paralyzed. How am I supposed to do that?
I've seen people fake that before. Get out of the chair, now.
I haven't walked in 19 years, sir.
I don't care about
Every Wednesday morning, Sergeant Major Marcus Webb went to Piedmont Park to read by the lake. His wife Angela worked the morning shift at the VA hospital. His routine was simple: coffee, wheelchair, book, peace. 19 years since the IED in Fallujah had taken his legs. 19 years of building a life around what remained. Wednesday, June 18th, was supposed to be the same. Officer Derek Rawlings, badge number 3847 with 5 years on the force, changed that. We got a call about someone matching your description selling drugs in this area. Webb looked up from his book, confused. Officer, I'm just reading in the park. What seems to be the problem? Stand up. Sir, I'm paralyzed. How am I supposed to do that? I've seen people fake that before. Get out of the chair. Now. The body cam captured what followed. Rawlings grabbing the wheelchair. Webb falling onto the pavement. A decorated combat veteran, Bronze Star, 2 Purple Hearts, 24 years of service, face down in a public park because an officer invented a drug investigation. The dispatch logs showed no such call. The description Rawlings cited didn't exist. The fabrication unraveled within hours. 12 years federal prison. $20 million settlement. And a Wednesday morning routine that resumed 3 months later. Same park, same bench, same book, because some things can't be taken away. Subscribe to the channel before we continue. Wednesday morning, Piedmont Park, 10:47 a.m. Sergeant Major Marcus Webb rolled his motorized wheelchair along the main pathway toward the lake. The same route he had taken every Wednesday for the past 5 years. His wife Angela was working the morning shift at the VA hospital, the same hospital where they had met 17 years ago, when she was his rehabilitation nurse and he was learning to live without his legs. Wednesday mornings belonged to him. Coffee from the shop on 10th Street. The bench near the water. Whatever book he was reading that week. Today it was a biography of General Colin Powell, a man who had inspired Webb's own military career, a man who had proven what black soldiers could achieve. He parked his wheelchair in his favorite spot near the lake, watched the ducks, opened his book, settled into the quiet. Joggers passed by, some nodding respectfully. Occasionally someone noticed the Purple Heart pin attached to his burgundy Howard University t-shirt and thanked him for his service. He appreciated the normalcy, the dignity of being just another person enjoying a public space. 19 years since Fallujah. The IED had detonated at 0847 local time on March 15, 2006. 3 members of his squad died instantly. Webb had pulled 2 wounded soldiers to cover before the second explosion caught him. He woke up in Landstuhl 3 days later. They told him he would never walk again. He served 5 more years anyway. Administrative roles. Advisory positions. Retired as Command Sergeant Major of the 3rd Infantry Division, the highest enlisted rank achievable. Bronze Star with Valor. 2 Purple Hearts. Legion of Merit. 24 years of service. All of it visible in the way he carried himself, even seated. What he didn't know, on the far side of the park, a woman named Diane Crawford had called 911. 54 years old. Reported a suspicious black man who was lurking and possibly dealing drugs. She was describing someone completely different, a young man in a hoodie on a bicycle. Officer Derek Rawlings received the dispatch, spotted Webb by the lake, decided he matched the description. He approached from behind, cast a shadow over the book. Webb looked up. Some encounters change everything within seconds. Have you ever witnessed a moment where you knew something was about to go wrong? Share your experience in the comments. Officer, I'm just reading in the park. What seems to be the problem? Officer Derek Rawlings. Badge number 3847. 5 years on the Atlanta Police Department. The body cam mounted on his chest was recording. We got a call about someone matching your description selling drugs in this area. Stand up. Webb looked down at his legs, visibly atrophied beneath the gray sweatpants. Motionless for nearly 2 decades. Drugs? Sir, I'm paralyzed. How am I supposed to do that? I've seen people fake that before. Get out of the chair. Now. Webb's voice tightened. The controlled discipline of someone who had commanded soldiers in combat. I haven't walked in 19 years, sir. I don't care about your story. Either you get up, or I'm pulling you out myself. Webb maintained composure despite the threat. 24 years of military discipline. 2 combat deployments where panic meant death. Officer, I am Sergeant Major Marcus Webb, United States Army, retired. I was paralyzed by an IED in Fallujah in 2006. I have 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. This wheelchair is my legs. I am not getting out of it, and you are not touching me. Rawlings stepped closer. I don't care if you were in the Marines. Army, not Marines. Learn the difference. Webb's voice went cold. And that Purple Heart on my chest isn't a fashion accessory. Rawlings reached for Webb's arm. You're being detained for investigation. Webb pulled back. Do not touch me. I know my rights. I served 24 years defending them. You have no probable cause, no warrant, no legal basis to detain a disabled veteran reading a book in a public park. A jogger had stopped nearby, watching, pulling out her phone to record. Other parkgoers were gathering. The particular magnetism of a confrontation in progress. Webb kept his hands visible, stayed calm, documented verbally. For the record, I am refusing consent to any search. I am not resisting arrest because I have not been lawfully arrested. I am a paralyzed veteran with a spinal cord injury. I cannot stand or walk. Any attempt to force me from this wheelchair will constitute assault on a disabled person. Rawlings' jaw tightened. I said get out of the chair. And I said I physically cannot. That is not defiance. That is medical fact. My spine was severed at T10 in Fallujah. I have VA medical records. I have military service records. I have 19 years of living in this chair. What I do not have is the ability to stand. The body cam captured every word. The phones of witnesses captured every angle. The evidence was multiplying by the second. When procedure meets prejudice, the footage tells the truth. If you believe documentation matters in situations like these, consider leaving a like. It helps more people understand why protocol exists. Rawlings grabbed Webb's arm and yanked. He attempted to pull a paralyzed man from his wheelchair by force. Webb gripped the armrests. The instinct of someone who had learned to navigate the world from a seated position. I can't walk. My spine is severed. What are you doing? Rawlings pulled harder. Stop resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm paralyzed. Webb's grip failed. He was pulled from his wheelchair and crashed onto the concrete pathway. His legs crumpled unnaturally beneath him. Unable to move. Unable to brace. Unable to do anything but fall. His book went flying. The Colin Powell biography scattered across the pavement. His Purple Heart pin skidded across the concrete. The medal he had earned pulling wounded soldiers to safety. Webb landed hard on his shoulder. His face scraped the pathway. The rough concrete tearing skin. My legs don't work. I told you I'm paralyzed. I can't stand up. Rawlings stood over him. Then stop playing games and show me some ID. Webb's face was pressed to concrete that had been warming in the June sun. My wallet is in the bag on my chair. I can't reach it because I can't move my legs. Gasps of horror from the gathering crowd. Multiple phones recording. The jogger who had stopped earlier. A mother with children who covered their eyes. An elderly couple frozen in shock. Someone screamed from the crowd. He's disabled. What are you doing? Webb lay on the ground. Shoulder dislocated. He could feel it. Face bleeding. Dignity shattered. But his voice remained steady. The discipline that had survived Fallujah. Officer Rawlings, that's your name on your badge. I want your supervisor here immediately. I want EMS. And I want your body cam footage preserved. What you just did was assault on a disabled veteran. Federal offense. Rawlings stood over him. The realization beginning to penetrate. Webb continued from the ground. I have served this country for 24 years. I was paralyzed protecting American soldiers. I have 2 Purple Hearts. And you just pulled me out of my wheelchair because you didn't believe a black man could be disabled. The crowd had grown to 30 people. All recording. All witnesses. Every single one of these people has footage. Your career is over. The only question is whether you make it worse. Subscribe if you want to see how evidence and witnesses can change the course of an encounter. Stories like this need to be documented. A white man in his 60s pushed through the crowd. Running clothes. Military bearing. The particular posture that never leaves a career officer. Retired Army Colonel Thomas Henderson had been jogging nearby when he heard the commotion. He recognized the Purple Heart pin lying on the concrete before he fully understood what had happened. Officer, stand down. His voice carried the authority of 30 years of command. That man is a decorated combat veteran. I can see his Purple Heart on the ground. He's paralyzed. What in God's name are you doing? Rawlings turned. Sir, stay back. I'm a retired colonel, United States Army. That man outranks me. He was a command sergeant major, the highest enlisted rank in the entire military. And you just pulled him out of his wheelchair onto concrete. Henderson knelt beside Webb. Sergeant Major, are you injured? Webb's cheek was still pressed to the pavement, blood trickling from the abrasions. My shoulder might be dislocated, but I felt worse. Fallujah was worse than this. Henderson looked up at Rawlings. The contempt of an officer who had spent 3 decades earning the right to judge. You should be ashamed of yourself. This man saved American lives. He pulled wounded soldiers to safety under enemy fire. He was paralyzed serving his country, and you treated him like garbage. He turned back to Webb. Sergeant Major, I'm calling EMS. I'm calling the VA hospital, and I'm calling every military contact I have. This officer's career ends today. Rawlings's face had gone pale, the magnitude beginning to register. A command sergeant major, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, 24 years of service, pulled from his wheelchair onto concrete because an officer assumed black men in wheelchairs were faking. Henderson stayed beside Webb, protected him, bore witness. Don't move, Sergeant Major. Help is coming. I can't move, Colonel. That's the point. Haven't been able to move my legs in 19 years. That's what I was trying to explain. I know. The whole world is going to know by tonight. The phones kept recording. The evidence kept mounting. And a retired colonel knelt in a public park, protecting a fellow soldier who had already given everything. At this point, opinions usually split. Do you think this situation could have been avoided if the officer had simply verified the disability? Let us know in the comments. The ambulance arrived in 11 minutes. Paramedics carefully assessed Webb on the ground. Dislocated shoulder. Facial abrasions. No new spinal complications. His existing injury prevented him from feeling the lower body impact. They lifted him back into his wheelchair. Gentle. Professional. The way Rawlings should have treated him from the start. Colonel Henderson had called the VA hospital, asked for Angela Webb. She arrived 25 minutes later, still in her nursing scrubs. She had left her shift the moment she received the call. She saw her husband being treated by paramedics, saw the blood on his face, saw the wheelchair that had been tipped over. She ran to him sobbing. Marcus, what happened? Webb tried to keep it together. For her, the way he had tried to keep it together through everything. Fallujah, rehabilitation, 19 years of adapting. Some cop didn't believe I was paralyzed, baby. Thought I was faking it. Angela turned on Rawlings. The fury in her eyes made everyone step back. 15 years of nursing wounded veterans. 15 years of seeing what war did to bodies and minds. 15 years of watching her husband rebuild himself from nothing. My husband was paralyzed saving American soldiers in Iraq. He has served this country for 24 years. He can't walk because he was protecting your freedom. She stepped toward Rawlings. He actually retreated, and you pulled him out of his wheelchair. Rawlings had no response, no defense, no explanation that would help. Angela turned back to her husband, held his face, looked at the abrasions. Baby, I'm so sorry. I should have been here. You were at work, taking care of other veterans. You can't be everywhere. This shouldn't have happened. Not to you. Not to anyone. She looked at the crowd, at the phones, at Colonel Henderson, who had stayed through everything. This ends today. I don't care what it takes. This officer is never going to do this to anyone else. Webb held his wife's hand. I know, Angela. I know. The paramedics finished their assessment. Recommended transport for the shoulder. Webb looked at Rawlings one final time. I'll see you in federal court. If accountability in how disabled veterans are treated matters to you, leave a like and share your perspective below. The body cam footage and crowd videos went viral within hours. The image of a Purple Heart veteran being pulled from his wheelchair became a national outrage. Viewed 23 million times before the weekend ended. FBI opened a civil rights investigation within 48 hours. Atlanta PD chief held an emergency press conference, apologizing personally and announcing Rawlings's immediate suspension. Military officials from the Pentagon to Fort Benning issued statements condemning the treatment of Sergeant Major Webb. The Army Chief of Staff called it a disgrace to every veteran who has served. The original 911 call was pulled and transcribed. 911, what's your emergency? There's a suspicious black man in Piedmont Park. He's lurking around. I think he might be dealing drugs. Can you describe him? Young, wearing a hoodie, on a bicycle. Young, hoodie, bicycle. Webb was 52, wearing a Howard University t-shirt. In a wheelchair. The description matched nothing about him. Rawlings had invented the connection entirely. His personnel file revealed the pattern that should have ended his career years earlier. 18 prior complaints of excessive force and racial profiling, all marked unfounded by internal affairs. 3 prior incidents of accusing people of faking disabilities. A woman with cerebral palsy. A man with prosthetic legs. A teenager with muscular dystrophy. All accused of faking. All cleared. All complaints dismissed. Text messages subpoenaed from his phone completed the picture. Love calling out fakers. Makes them prove they're really crippled. But I can make the wheelchair guy stand up. Most of these disabled people are scamming the system. He had targeted Webb specifically to prove a theory. The same theory he had tested on disabled citizens for years. The federal grand jury convened 8 weeks after the incident. Indictments, civil rights violations, assault on a disabled person, assault on a veteran, deprivation of rights under color of law, filing false reports, conduct unbecoming. Officer Derek Rawlings would face trial for pulling a paralyzed combat veteran from his wheelchair onto concrete. When patterns exist in personnel files, they tell a story beyond any single incident. Do you think departments do enough to address repeated complaints? Tell us in the comments. The federal courtroom in Atlanta drew national attention. Military veterans packed the courtroom every day, several in wheelchairs themselves. Solidarity from those who understood what Webb had sacrificed. Sergeant Major Marcus Webb testified on the 4th day. He wore his Army dress uniform, 24 years of service ribbons and decorations displayed. Bronze Star with Valor, 2 Purple Hearts, Legion of Merit. He testified from his wheelchair. I was paralyzed at 29 years old. I spent 2 years learning to live in this chair. I built a life, a family, a sense of dignity. He looked at Rawlings. And Officer Rawlings took all of that away in 30 seconds on a park pathway. He looked at me and saw a black man in a wheelchair who must be faking, must be a criminal, must be worthless. He gestured to the medals on his chest. He didn't see 24 years of service, 3 combat deployments, a Purple Heart, a family who loves me. He saw what his prejudice told him to see. The body cam footage played. The jury watched Rawlings approach, watched Webb explain his disability calmly, watched Rawlings grab the wheelchair, watched a decorated veteran fall onto concrete. My legs don't work. I told you I'm paralyzed. Angela Webb testified about finding her husband on the ground. I've worked with wounded veterans for 15 years. I've seen men who lost legs, lost arms, lost their minds to war. Marcus kept his spirit through all of it. Her voice broke. And that officer broke something in him. I'm still trying to help him rebuild. The text messages were displayed. Love calling out fakers. But I can make the wheelchair guy stand up. The defense argued mistake of fact. Good faith. The prosecutor's response was precise. The 911 call described a young man in a hoodie on a bicycle. Sergeant Major Webb is 52, wearing a t-shirt, in a wheelchair. There was no match. Officer Rawlings invented the connection because he saw a black man and decided to prove he was faking a disability. She displayed the pattern. 18 prior complaints. 3 prior disability accusations. 5 years of documented bias never addressed. The jury deliberated 3 hours. Guilty. All counts. Sentencing followed 6 weeks later. Officer Rawlings, you assaulted a decorated combat veteran. You showed contempt for his service and his disability. You acted with malice and prejudice. 12 years federal prison. Enhanced for targeting a disabled veteran and pattern of prior conduct. Permanently barred from law enforcement. Subscribe for more cases where evidence exposes what assumptions try to hide. The civil trial followed the criminal conviction. Sergeant Major Webb sued the city of Atlanta for the actions of its officer. The trial lasted 6 days. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated 4 hours. Verdict: $20 million. One of the largest police brutality verdicts in Georgia history. Webb announced the distribution at a press conference at the Atlanta VA hospital, the same hospital where his wife had worked for 15 years. I didn't ask for this money. I asked for accountability. But since it's here, it goes where it belongs. $8 million to the Paralyzed Veterans of America, the organization that had supported Webb through 19 years of adaptation. $5 million to establish the Webb Center for Disabled Veterans at the Atlanta VA, a facility dedicated to rehabilitation and transition services. $4 million to scholarships for children of disabled veterans. Education for families who had sacrificed. $3 million to spinal cord injury research at Shepherd Center in Atlanta. Finding treatments so future soldiers might not face what Webb had faced. I spent 24 years serving this country. 19 of those years, I served from this chair. The money goes to the people who helped me survive it, and to making sure others have better chances than I did. 6 Atlanta PD supervisors who had dismissed prior complaints against Rawlings were disciplined or terminated. The Internal Affairs Division was restructured. The department was placed under DOJ consent decree. 5 years of federal oversight. Comprehensive disability sensitivity training mandated. Georgia's legislature acted within the year. The Webb Act, requiring immediate supervisor notification when any encounter involves a person with visible disability, and establishing criminal penalties for disability-based harassment by law enforcement. The law ensured that what happened in Piedmont Park could never happen the same way again. When reform follows tragedy, the numbers tell the story. Do you think police departments need more training on interacting with disabled individuals? Share your thoughts below. Derek Rawlings began serving his 12-year sentence at a federal facility in Alabama. His appeals were denied. His law enforcement certification was permanently revoked. His pension was forfeited. The 18 prior complaints that had been dismissed were reopened. 7 resulted in additional findings that would have supported termination years earlier. Sergeant Major Marcus Webb returned to Piedmont Park 3 months after the verdict. Same pathway, same spot by the lake, same Wednesday morning routine. This time, he wasn't alone. The mayor of Atlanta was there, the new chief of police, Colonel Henderson, who had intervened that day, and 200 veterans in wheelchairs. They had come from across Georgia, from neighboring states, veterans who had heard the story and wanted to show solidarity. 200 wheelchairs, 200 veterans, all there to read with Sergeant Major Webb. The park had never seen anything like it. Webb rolled to his usual spot, the same spot where Rawlings had pulled him onto concrete. The same view of the lake, the same peaceful morning. But something was different now. A bench had been installed, bronze plaque on the backrest, reserved for Sergeant Major Marcus Webb, who served his country for 24 years and refused to let anyone take his dignity. Webb sat in his wheelchair beside the bench, opened his book, the Colin Powell biography, finally finished and replaced with a new one. The mayor spoke briefly. The chief apologized publicly. Colonel Henderson said a few words about service and sacrifice. Then everyone fell silent. 200 veterans, reading in a park, proving that dignity couldn't be taken, only defended. The case file remains in federal databases. Case number 2025 CR 02847. Subject: civil rights violations, assault on disabled person, assault on veteran, deprivation of rights under color of law, filing false reports. Location: Piedmont Park, Atlanta, Georgia. Outcome: conviction. 12 years federal prison. $20 million settlement. Statewide legislation. Institutional reform. Principle established. Wheelchairs don't diminish worth. Service doesn't expire. Disabilities aren't performances. And some Wednesday mornings are worth defending, no matter what it costs. Sergeant Major Marcus Webb proved that principle the only way available. By sitting in his park. By reading his book. By refusing to let one officer's bias define his life. By returning to the same spot, surrounded by 200 brothers and sisters who understood what service really meant. The bench is still there. The plaque tells the story. And every Wednesday morning, a decorated veteran returns to read by the lake. Same routine. Same dignity. Unbroken. Subscribe for more stories examining service, sacrifice, and the real impact of decisions made in moments like this.